Gemma Hussey, the Franchise Relationship Manager here at Tezlom, and today is my second podcast with the lovely Jane. Can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's Jane James. I'm Jane James, known previously as Jane Maudsley, so it's took me a while to get my new name. Jane James, I'm the founder and franchisor at Little Voices.
Welcome. Thanks for coming on. New name. I'm going to jump in straight on that new name. When did you change your name? Get married?
We got married in the middle of lockdown, Gemma.
Wow.
So it had been planned for the May, but obviously the country went into lockdown and we shifted it to September of 2020. Very small, no music, minimal words, hardly anyone there. But it was my second marriage, so, you know, I was really happy with that. We wanted it small and intimate anyway, and we got our wish.
Sounds magical, actually. The no music thing, though, for you.
It was really hard.
I was going to say, did you sing?
I couldn't sing. You weren't allowed to sing at that point. So being a trained opera singer, that wasn't easy for me. And music's a huge part of my life, of course.
Yeah.
But it was small, it was intimate, it was exactly as we wanted it. You weren't even allowed a party afterwards or to go I think you could go for a meal at that time with 6 people, but it was all those different rules.
Oh, so it was literally when it was, 6 people. I
Rigid,
remember that.
yeah.
Do you know, it's mad because it feels so long ago, but yet it's still creeping in, isn't it? And it's creeping back in again. Hopefully not, but to not be able to sing, which is your passion, I find that really difficult. But 6 people, wow. I'll have to come back to that in a second. But what I wanted to start off with was basically just how we connected, because I hadn't been in the industry that long, and I remember I went to EWIB, and I met you there very briefly, and then after that I think a lot of our connection was through social media on the LinkedIn platform, and I've only ever been able to see little bits and the basics, and one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here today was just to find out a little bit more about you, your journey, and how you came to be a franchisor, really. And just, I need to know a little bit more about you. So I want to start with the opera singing.
Okay, let's start with the opera singing.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. So I always loved to sing at school. I went for singing lessons. My mum sought out the best singing teachers for me. They introduced me. Great teachers are really influential in our lives, aren't they? Yes. And we can always remember our favourite teachers or our best teachers.
It's coming into my mind as you said it.
Absolutely. And we can all do that. So I had great teachers, and they introduced me to the world of opera, because I'd always loved musical theatre, Phantom of the Opera, Les Miserables, but they introduced me to opera and I fell in love with it because it was so, it sounds really complex and highbrow, or it's got a stigma attached to it of its own, but actually I just love the simplicity of the story, love, death, hate.
Really passionate, isn't it?
It's really passionate. So fell in love with that and decided that I wanted to be a professional singer. My imagination of what a professional singer did and was one picture. What it is something very different. So that's a journey in itself. I did a normal music degree, like academic degree at University of Sheffield, to sort of get the qualification and tick the box and to have some security behind me should it not all work out. Took a year out, ran the London Marathon, raised loads of money for charity, worked for my dad's company, and then I had, after the marathon, a bit of a medical situation with my foot and operations and one thing and another.
How old were you at this time?
22, really young.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot to put into a short period of time.
Really short period of time. So lots of learnings from that. We can come back to that if you like. But I had 16 operations, reconstructed my foot, was able to walk, and went off to music college to do opera. Okay. So a bit of a journey. There's lots there to unpick. But
did you hurt your foot during the marathon?
I had a bunion.
Right.
I ran the marathon with a bunion. Really simple thing.
Yeah.
Like, really simple
and
thing.
It's not, though. I know quite a few people who've had them, and you just think, oh, it's a bunion, it's nothing, but the operation, well,
and it's painful.
Yeah,
it's painful.
Very.
And it went slightly wrong. So anyway, long story short, went to do my master's degree in Glasgow at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland in opera and concert singing. And loved it, made amazing friends, learnt so many languages, because obviously you have to sing in French, German, Russian, Latin.
Wow.
I can't fluently speak those languages, but I can sing in those languages and understand them and interpret the words.
So to be able to get the emotion behind it.
Yeah, because you've got to portray it. You know, your voice, we've all got a voice. But the voice...
Don't you know it? I mean me, not you, don't worry.
Everybody's got a voice. We're talking now, and I'm telling you, you've got a voice in there. The confidence to use it and how tone beautiful it is varies, obviously. But I believe everyone can sing.
I'm going to say no.
We could have a little singing lesson, couldn't we?
No, we cannot. And I'm like looking at Kay going, no.
No, we're not going down that route. So, yes, came out with my master's, postgraduate diploma and then a master's in opera. Auditions then start, getting an agent. I never got an agent, so was I not good enough? I don't know. Did I really want it enough? I think that was a big factor. Do you really want this? What I quickly realised is I loved performing, I loved to sing, I loved to use my voice. I didn't like the bread and butter of being a singer. Yeah. So that was oratorio, church music, Saturday nights, Sunday evenings, the practising, the detail.
Yeah. It sounds like this, you want to break the stigma. That's the vibe I'm getting from it.
Yeah, it wasn't... That wasn't what I imagined, as I said to you at the beginning. What
Sorry, I
being
meant
an
the
opera singer
stereotypical opera singer. That's what I would imagine.
Yes, okay. So that wasn't for me. And I quickly knew that. And going to an audition and then not getting it, the journey, I mean, we didn't talk about mental health back then. We're talking 22 years ago. It wasn't as talked about, but it was a tough one. Because you never got feedback. You went into those situations to show your voice. You'd practice loads. You'd really prepared, and then you didn't get it. And you didn't get feedback.
That'd be tough.
And a lot of that is not just about the quality of the voice. It's does your face fit? Do you look right? There's so many various factors that go into that success. So I quickly realised that the life of a singer wasn't for me. I came back to Blackburn, my hometown in Lancashire. I was engaged to be married. We bought a house. We got married. And I found teaching. Yeah. And fell in love with teaching children. Music, drama, singing.
You light up when you're talking about it.
I love it.
Then.
I just love it.
It's just completely changed.
Yeah. They teach you so much about yourself. And just helping them to be confident humans and having that connection and relationship with them was really special. So I worked in lots of schools and lots of places to teach children.
It sounds like you had a lot of self-awareness at quite an early stage as well. To realise that industry wasn't for you is quite a big thing in itself. So I think that's a massive part of your journey, to go from what you thought was going to be a professional career as a singer to then change to be a teacher. That's a huge step in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, and you've got to come to terms with it. You are.
Yeah.
And also you were sort of led to believe, you'd been in this bubble of music college where everyone's aiming for the stage. There's no other sort of avenues that you can see or taught about or discussed. It's the stage. You come out into the real world and actually that's not reality. But all your family and friends are expecting, when are you going to be at the Royal Albert Hall? When are you going to be in the West End? When are you going to be at La Scala? And it was hard to come to terms with myself that actually I preferred teaching. So I had to admit it internally, come to terms with it before I could start then saying, well, no, actually, this is my route.
Yeah, that's really brave. I love that, because you've been true to yourself. You've not tried to please other people with that expectation on you. So that's a lot to carry, isn't it?
Yeah, because people support you, don't they?
Yes.
You know, people had... we'd done charity concerts, they'd paid for tickets. I'd had people giving me amazing donations to help me do my courses, because financially it was a lot of money to do a master's degree. So you carry a lot of responsibility there, that you've had all this support.
An expectation, I can imagine.
And actually I don't want that.
No. Talk to me about teaching. So what age were you at this when you made that decision to make the change? And
probably around 25-ish, 24, 25. So young,
yes,
baby,
still
really.
Very young, yeah.
But you feel like you're old, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, you feel like you're old when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
So
I think I was more mature then than I am now, to be honest. But yeah, you do at the time.
You do.
So where did you teach? Was it back in your hometown?
In Blackburn, yes.
Yeah.
So in the house that we bought, I had a teaching studio at the front. Pupils would come to the house until 8-9 o'clock at night, adults and children.
Yeah.
All weekend I'd work in different music schools. I'd work in lots of independent and primary schools and secondary schools across the area, travelling up to Blackpool, out to Rossall, Cleveland, Manchester. And I was a freelancer because I was teaching in all of these different places. So, in effect, was doing my own accounts too and running a business, in inverted commas, but just as a teacher, freelancing.
So after doing that, at what point, and I may be missing out some huge gaps here, but at what point did you go from teaching to realise, as this is a business, as you've said, did you think, I've got an idea here, I'm going to franchise it?
Yeah.
Is there some gaps I've missed out in between there?
There's a journey, I suppose, in itself. So I quickly learnt in the industry of being a freelance singing teacher, which is quite common. People that come out of drama school or music college, they tend to find themselves teaching to bring in the income rather than working in a bar or a restaurant. You've got to have something that you can flexibly work around your auditioning. So it's quite a common route, I would say. You sort of fall into teaching. I actually fell in love with it as well as falling into it. And I started to create terms and conditions, code of conducts, insurance in place. Like, things came into the realm that I thought, I need that should be in place.
So you got some structure behind you.
Yeah, because it's quite it's quite unstable as well, and it's seasonal, because children go on holiday, they have 6 weeks off, it's Christmas holidays, Easter, all of these things. So you've got a great wage coming in, but there's also huge gaps. I found the lack of security of that quite unnerving. So anyway, personally speaking, got married. Within the first 12 months, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, which was amazing. And I went back, and then I found out when I was 6 months pregnant that my husband had an affair with someone else, and he left.
Right. Wow.
So that was a crashing, it was a massive blow.
Yeah, I can imagine.
On so many different levels. Didn't expect it.
Yeah.
My ex-husband is a lovely man.
Yeah.
Like, he's not, he's so much good. Like, he's not out drinking and partying, and it wasn't expected. It was a complete shock.
It sounds completely unexpected.
It was completely unexpected.
Because you have a stereotype, don't you, sometimes in your mind? And
so it wasn't that at all. So it was a complete shock. It was sort of Christmas time when I found out, and went up backwards and forwards, but in the end I was obviously on my own. We didn't continue with the relationship, and I gave birth. I worked up until the day before Olivia was born.
Wow.
Because I had to. I was self-employed. I had to pay the mortgage. I had to keep the roof over our heads.
There's no option here.
She was 2 weeks late. I delivered her, and within a week I was back at work.
Wow.
So it was tough, but I had amazing support, family, friends.
Jane, your passion is just coming through. I mean, I know you had to go back after a week, but I feel like there's something inside you where you wanted to go back at the same time.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, you and I both know Eleanor, who's one of my franchisees now, and we'll come down to that story.
But round of applause to her.
Amazing. No, she was 8 years old. She was one of my pupils at that
really?
time.
I was going to ask you about her, how you came along.
Yeah, so her mum used to bring her to the lessons at my house, 6 o'clock on a Monday. That was her time slot. And her mum would look after Olivia whilst I was teaching Eleanor. So we made it work. Friends, family, the parents I had around me of the children I taught were phenomenal, and that happened. So first, when Olivia was about 3 months old, I was well back into everything. Was on on fire in terms of teaching in the different schools that I was at, and I was sat around a coffee shop table in Blackburn, just along from Marks and Spencer's. With a really good friend of mine at the time, who'd actually been a teacher at the school where I'd gone to, but she was newly qualified, so we were really close in age. I was 18, she was like 23, 24. And she said, and we'd been working on a project together in the summer at the school where she worked. I'd been the singing teacher, she was the drama, and although she was a full-time teacher, she said to me, Jane, you're like pretty much running a business now, doing what you're doing. We should start something. Let's start something. And I was like, what do you mean? I said, I've got no time. I'm breastfeeding this baby. I'm trying to keep the roof over my head. And the wolf from the door. I literally don't have any time. What are you talking about? And she said, let's put children, rather than one-to-one lessons that people think of, go to a singing lesson or a drama lesson, let's create something where they come in a really small group so we can still give them individual attention, but they learn to be part of a team, and we give them loads of life skills. And I was like, right, when are you thinking of doing this? And she was like, let's start next month. And let's put 6 children in a class. At the time, it was 6 children in a class. We don't have 6 anymore, it's 8. But let's have 6 children in a class. And let's start on a Tuesday night. What gap do you have? I said, well, Tuesday's literally between 6 and 7:30. Great, that's when we'll do it. And it was there was no plan.
You've got no option to say no here.
No, my friend is really, really good at, encouraging people to do something. And we literally started 18th of September 2007, went home, fed the baby very quickly between jobs, left some breast milk for my sister to be able to feed her, went out and started this thing that we called Little Voices.
I love that.
And that was 15 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, because I actually did do a tiny little bit of research, and I was looking, it was 15 years ago. I was like, wow, that's a long time. How many franchisees do you have?
We've got 27 franchisees, 185 tutors.
Wow.
Across the country, teaching for those franchisees. So each franchisee has multiple centres, multiple school contracts, etc.
How do you even manage that team? It's a huge amount of people.
It's what's at the core. At the core. We all believe that at the core, children are at the core of what we do. And every child has something amazing to share.
Yeah.
Top and bottom of it.
Yeah.
So we just have to find that something, access that something. We can give them the time to be themselves, feel safe in a creatively safe space, to explore emotion themselves, how they react, how they behave, their loves, their passions, and draw it out.
It's quite unique, isn't it? Because it's not just, when you say Little Voices, it's not somewhere you just go to sing and learn to sing and find your voice in that sense. It's when you said about life skills. What kind of life skills are you teaching them? How do you go about it? Is it literally through them singing and performing? What is it exactly that you do? Children don't really know that they're learning all of these skills that will set them up for life.
Yeah. But we've all had to go for a job interview, haven't we, Gemma?
Yes.
And we've all had to present ourselves in public or in front of the class and present a project in English. We all have to have the confidence to put our hand up and say our name or ask a question.
Were you confident to do that at school in yourself?
Yes, at times. I was always a confident child.
Yeah.
But I recognised that there were situations where I felt uncomfortable or out of my comfort zone or didn't have the confidence to. And I think through the structure of our lessons, we're able, because it's so small, because no child's lost at the back, because it's not, you don't come to Little Voices to be on the stage or stage and screen or be famous. We've got loads of success stories, loads of performers in the West End, in Matilda, Phantom of the Opera. It happens. But for us, it's for every child to find their unique talent. And so when a child, I remember a child that came to us years ago when I first started the first classes, and she used to come in reading a book, and she didn't want to take her eyes out of this book, and she'd read, and she'd sit in the corner, and the mum said, "You'll never get her to perform The Sound of Music in a LAMDA exam," because we work towards qualified off-qual examinations, so each child gets a qualification with us as well that helps them long-term in life. She said, "You'll never get her in the exam room. She won't come out of the book." And I said, just give us, trust me, give me some time. And honestly, after 18 weeks of coming, the structure, the building that safety space, removing the book that she felt comfortable to, it sat on the top of the piano, talking to her about her interests, what the book was about, just being able to work with her, with the other with the other children in the group, great friendships, create that safe space. She flourished. She performed in The Sound of Music in that group of 8 children, and they got distinction. Wow. And Mum and Dad were moving to Cornwall, and Mum rang me and said, "I wish you had a centre in Cornwall or somewhere, because you've really helped." For my child, she went to a family party last week, saw all these strange faces that she hadn't seen, didn't know, and confidently said who she was and had a conversation. Wow. And that's what it's about.
I keep saying wow because it just blows me away. Everything is... I never even realised until I met you that certain things like Little Voices existed. So for me, it's really nice to know, because I've got nieces and nephews. I don't have children myself, and I can already see how it'd help out my nephew. He's a little bit insular with himself. He hides behind, not his book, but his computer games and other things, and won't go into it too much detail, but I can see huge benefit for every child to attend one of your classes, and I'm trying to relate it to certain things within my life, and it's really nice. I think it's amazing what you do.
Oh, thank you.
I love it.
I love it. I bounce out of bed, as you can tell.
I can tell because I know how much I love my job, and to see somebody, I mean, there's quite a few of us here are like that, but just to see your passion, it comes through in bundles on LinkedIn, I mean, and other platforms that I know that you're on as well. And I always come back to LinkedIn because it's one of my favourite platforms to discuss and to be on. It's our main driving force. But for me, meeting you today, I just want to know even more. I want to know what's in the future for you. Are you going to carry on with the business and try and grow more franchisees? What's the next step for you?
Well,
there's probably a lot of questions in one.
So many questions.
welcome to my world.
No, I love questions. We've got, short term, for me, it's about helping not just the children to flourish in confidence, but now we've got a structure with the franchise that helps teachers escape the classroom, thrive. It's really sad.
So would they do that as like a second job for them then?
Some will do it as a second job and call it their side hustle, but others will do it full time. Others will walk away, leave and do Little Voices. It's sort of a sad state of affairs in education at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to pull you back on that. What about the sadness? Because obviously if you're not in it, you don't fully understand, and sometimes you don't respect that sadness of other people if you aren't aware of it. So
yeah, I mean, I find that lots and lots of teachers are frustrated because you go into teaching because you love children, you want to pass on knowledge and learning, but the system doesn't allow you to do that. It's data, it's statistics, it's paperwork, it's not. And people say, oh, wonderful holidays, no, that's not the reality. So for teachers that want to teach the way they want to teach and believe that teaching would be, they can do that at Little Voices, because our teachers, they're not following a set syllabus. So you don't go to Newcastle and London and see the same lesson being delivered in both locations. Our teachers are really creative, really talented, really proficient individuals, and they create the lessons for the children that are in front of them because of those unique children coming through the doors. Yes, we have loads of scripts and loads of guidance, and the Lambda exam syllabus guides all of that, but they create what those children need. So if children come to us, the first 5 minutes of our lesson is, what's happened this week? Tell us all about you. What's been good, what's not been good. It's a chance for the children to talk, to share.
And express themselves.
Be themselves. And in that session, it might come out that, I really struggled with this today, or this was hard. And the teacher might shift the focus of the lesson that day to make sure that all those children go out feeling like that's been really beneficial for us. So they've got freedom to teach. So
yeah, I was going to say, it allows them to be creative, doesn't it, in that sense, instead of following a rule book and guidance in that way, where it would turn off some children, wouldn't it? And
Absolutely.
They wouldn't learn from that, or wouldn't even absorb it, would they?
No. So I'm not, as the franchisor, I'm not Ofsted. I'm not, the boss. Yes, in name, I'm the CEO, I'm the leader, I'm the founder. But each of my franchisees is creative, talented, running their own business, captain of their own ship. They believe in the goal of us, that children are at the heart of what we do, and they follow their path and their journey. So they make it fit to their life. Yeah. And some want to leave teaching and some want to bolt it on. And then similarly, look at a mini-me, someone coming out of music college, drama school, not sure which direction they want to come in, but want to build something secure.
And you've gone on that journey yourself, so you can educate somebody, and you probably can notice and recognise somebody who's going through that same struggle that you've gone through, and you can probably help and guide them through to a similar path you've been on as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a skill in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And all the business stuff is there for you. It's been done, the hard work. I was speaking to someone the other night about franchise resales, and because we have quite a few businesses across the UK that are also up for sale at the moment because people want to move countries, or their husband's job changes, or whatever. And obviously you've built an asset, so you then want to realise that asset financially. But he was saying, why would you buy a franchise initially because the startup's been done for you. So the first 3 years in business, all the mistakes and things have been done and tried and tested. Yeah. So that's why you buy a franchise. You buy a resale because you buy in those first 3 years from the franchisor and 5 years of a business getting off the ground in a local area. Yeah. So you're saving loads of time. Yeah. And so for me, for teachers, it feels coming into a franchise like they're going into a really safe staff room where
surrounded by like-minded people. Yeah, I can imagine that. So it's just going to go back to what we talked about before we came on here. Actually, I'm going to just shift it slightly. You were telling me about a podcast that you might be doing yourself.
Yes.
Are you happy to share that today?
I'm happy to share that in a room of trust. Yes.
It's a safe place, Tezlom.
It's a safe space. I love podcasts. I love listening to them. I love hopefully sharing some of my journey on them. And I realised my daughter and I, we won a couple of awards last year, and I went on the radio to do a broadcast on our local radio station, and it happened to be half term, and my daughter came with me. And we were sat there with the presenter, and she said, will your daughter come on the show? Will you sign a disclaimer? Can she come on? And Olivia was like, yeah, okay, but I don't know what you're going to ask me. And she was really thrown in the deep end. Yeah. And she loved it. And afterwards, the broadcaster and the people in the tech place said, she's got a real good voice for radio, and she comes across really well. And I said to Olivia, I think, why don't we do our own podcast, the two of us? And we thought about mums and daughters things and all those sort of scenarios. But what we realised only in the last, just very, very recently, that we have some of our best conversations on the school run. So our school run is quite long. We go in a car. Some people walk to school, some people go on the bus. Some people's grandparents take them, some people auntie or the childminder or whatever. But we've all experienced the school run in some shape or form, either our own or taking our children. So our journeys, because of where I live now, being married, we moved areas. Olivia stayed at the original school. So she's got like an hour and a half journey to school every morning. Okay. I take her sort of 3/4 of the way, and then she gets the bus. She listens to podcasts on the bus. We have these amazing conversations. It's a time, I know when you get off the bus, you don't really want to talk to your mum at the end of the school day, but she does, and we do. And sometimes my phone will ring, and it'll be the franchise lister or a franchisee with a problem or something, and it provokes really good conversations. So we're going to share some of those conversations, what happens in the school day, how she overcomes things, what my advice is. And also, because of the life skills at Little Voices and where and how we want to help children, a lot of things don't get discussed in school. No. There isn't room for arts education. There isn't room to really explore different career options. We all know about doctors and lawyers, but do we know about speech therapists? Do we know about you, Gemma, and your background?
I say this all the time about different skills and careers that are out there. When you're at school, I don't know if it's like that now, but from what you're saying, it probably hasn't changed. When I was at school, it literally was, like you said, policeman, fireman, doctor, vet, nurse. I never knew what I wanted to be. It's only now that I've found a place where I actually feel like I can be myself, and I've had some wonderful jobs in the past. And I'm not just saying this because I'm here, but I think my social media, the way I talk, my platforms will all orchestrate the same message, that I feel like I found my home. I wouldn't even know what this title would be. I know I've got relationship manager. It sounds about right. But when going back to being in school, speech therapists, there's loads of different jobs that you just don't have any idea what they are. So for an example of this, in my past, we used to payroll contractors all over the world in different jobs. And there was like an underwater tractor driver. And I was like, I want to be one of those. What is it? And then I realised it wasn't quite as exciting as I thought it was in my head. But it's interesting to know that these different careers exist, but how are people coming across them? How are they finding them? Because nothing's been told at school, from what you've said, even now. So maybe you could use your platform to help spread your message about what other jobs are out there as well.
And that's absolutely what we want to do. So it'll, from a very selfish reason, Olivia and I talk all the time about what she's going to do going forward. We're researching lots of things. She hears me go to conferences and women in business events, and I'm always learning. I'm keen to learn about other people's careers. I'm interested in people. So having a position within our podcast for that to sort of educate.
There's so many topics that you could hit with that as well, because there's so many things that people are vulnerable to talk about. And when you're talking to your mum, I mean, it sounds like you've got a very similar relationship actually to what I have with my mum. She is my go-to. I trust her with everything. She's my best friend, and as cheesy and as lovely and fluffy that sounds, it's true. And there's no topic that I couldn't discuss with her, and I get that vibe from you. And I think when you forget that there's these microphones in front of us and cameras and whatnot, a lot of vulnerability can come through naturally.
Absolutely.
That'd be really exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think, that'd be amazing. And Olivia's got her own story. She's gone through her own journey. I was very poorly 3 years ago. She's had her own struggles with different things. She's very wise on mental health, emotions, what her friends are going through. And I think there's quite a lot that we can talk about from two generational perspectives as well. So, I'm really excited about it. It's going to be very low key, but it is it's our
we say
baby.
Low-key to start with.
It's our thing, yeah.
Do you know, just from talking to you today, and we've not had a script. We didn't know what today was going to be about. I know I keep asking, what do we want from today? What I've realised is, I know everyone's got a journey, but you've got so many parts to you that I want to unpick and find out so much more about. I feel like this is just part one of our journey on this podcast, and you've amazed me today. I just feel like there's so much more I want to go off on a tangent about you being ill 3 years ago, you struggle through having a baby and your marriage breaking down. There's so much, and I feel from what you've gone through mentally as well and physically, a lot of that has probably helped create Olivia to be so strong, and these journeys and the conversations you have together. I'm really excited to hear what's next for you guys. I think that's going to be exciting.
Thank you. We are excited, and life's a roller coaster.
Yes,
you know, and that's why I love podcasts so much, because you learn about someone and you hear about something, and it gives you a perspective to be able to understand what someone might be going through. You know, before I was very poorly, I had no knowledge of mental health. I didn't even accept or know, because I was ignorant to the fact that 100% of us have mental health.
Yes.
Like everybody.
Yeah.
And just like we do physical, and it's got to be looked after.
Yeah.
And I push myself.
It's not as obvious, is it?
Not at all.
As physical.
No, and I push myself to such an extreme, not only with the business, but with everything I'd gone through. The traumas were just sort of buried. I saw a video the other day where someone was sort of holding a balloon down, and you've got to. You know, I just think by sharing and being brave and being courageous and talking about those, it helps other people.
Yeah, like I'm constantly nodding like this because you never used to be able to express yourself years ago. And everyone, like you said, 100% of people hold mental health. It's just no one felt they were allowed to express it. I still feel like, I know we're getting a lot better, a heck of a lot better. Podcasts help. Just your circle of friends, I feel like more and more people I speak to, they're surrounding themselves with like-minded people, and people are educating themselves to be better in that sense. But I just think there's still a lot we can learn from each other, because like I said, just listening to things you've mentioned today, there's a lot of cases that you could just drill down, and so many people would relate to each and every single part. But you want to sometimes protect it and keep it to yourself, because you think, oh God, no one wants to hear this. They're going to think I'm just moaning about something. Because I do it myself. I do it all the time, even though I still try and promote things out into the world. Just on that pure basis, that if one person can learn, change, or relate to it for the better, then that's all you want to do.
Yeah, if you can just help one person, it was worth going through all that stuff.
And it's never just one person.
No.
I found that, you know, I'm society saying, no, it's just that one person. It's bigger than that, isn't it?
It is. But I remember when I did... I remember Google. We go to Google for things, don't we?
Yeah,
so something happens to us and we just Google it.
Yeah.
And Google's a lot better now than it was when I was 26 and pregnant. And I remember Googling how to cope when your husband's left with and you're 6 months pregnant. I mean, there was no one else. There was no blogs. There was no podcast. There was no one. I couldn't hook something. And everybody's journey will be completely unique. I'm not saying anything is the same. We experience things in totally different ways. But just I wanted something that made me
Someone
think.
to just go, I've been there. Doesn't matter what the journey
and
was.
do this,
go,
and this is what to expect. I needed, because I'm a learner. I want to absorb knowledge, and it wasn't there. So it took me a long time to recover this from my mental and physical breakdown. I mean, I was in hospital 6 weeks, and when I came out of my hospital room,
did you just kind of hit? It's like a build up. I want to say, did you just kind of mentally break down around yourself, or were you self-aware of it? I mean, if you're not comfortable talking about it.
I'm totally comfortable talking about it. So it took a long time to do so, to reconcile with that I can be brave and do that, and I'm really comfortable with it. So ask away, it's not a problem. The situation was that we'd done our national conference for Little Voices in the February 2020. I drove back home. The following day, I had major stomach pains, didn't know what it was, woke up in the middle of the night. My husband's a firefighter. He said, we've got to get you to the hospital. I think it's appendicitis. Rushed me into hospital and took my daughter with us at the time, because it was the middle of the night. She was 12, 13 years old. She had to come. There was no one else. Morphine, etc., scans, and they found a twisted dermoid cyst.
Right.
which basically had been growing inside me for about 10 years. They grow about 1 centimetre a year. And it had twisted, and that was causing the pain. So they had to do emergency surgery to remove it. These things have like, it's gross, teeth, hair, eyes. It's like a minute. It was tough. And with that took half my women's anatomy away with it as well.
Right.
Came back home. To all intents and purposes, I was recovering. So I was off work, but I was still on the emails and doing things at home. But I was recovering in inverted commas. I don't really, or didn't understand the word put yourself first, self-care. I didn't have any of this, you know, in my psyche. It was put that to one side, crack on. And then an infection started in the wound. I got antibiotics, and then the pandemic sort of was starting to come across and things were happening, and I was like, we're going to have to pivot here.
That's a scary time.
And the week before everything closed down, I was absolutely busting a gut to pivot the company online. So the Friday as the schools closed, when everyone else was just realising what was happening, we'd already pivoted. Emails had gone out to all the parents, see you 5 o'clock next week, virtual classrooms. And I'm not a techie person, but the business was going to go under. We weren't going to have a business because we couldn't operate anywhere.
Had to react, yeah.
I didn't sleep for a week.
This is not putting you first, Jane.
No, I had a raging blood infection. I wasn't eating or drinking. My husband came home from work and I was like, what are you doing here? And I was someone else. Wow. I was pedaling here right at the top of out of control. My phone was constant. Messages, social media, other franchisors, what are you doing? And I was just like, we've got to pivot. Writing policies and procedures, I had this time bomb inside me.
Had you already reached burnout and not realised at this point, do you think?
I was way past.
Way past.
I'm
way
talking
past. Way past it.
I was way past. I don't remember the Saturday morning that I got to. All I remember is being on the stairs, my mum being there, and suddenly my head just banging. I heard this pop. That's all I can explain it as a pop. And that's it. Now what I tell you is either what some of the memories come back or what I've been told by family. So that's a hard one to position, and you're always recovering after something like that. Yeah. I'm recovering all the time. Yeah. But I was admitted to hospital. I was in there for 6 weeks. I remember coming out of the bedroom one day and looking at this blackboard outside the room, and it said the 24th of April. So I'd lost a month. I was obviously highly medicated. They'd got the infection under control. I was on obviously mental medication for my mental health. Yeah. And boy, it was a journey. I mean, I looked at the notice board one day and I couldn't string 2 words together. I couldn't understand. And I remember looking and thinking, I'm really intelligent. I'm Jane. Inside here, I'm Jane. But what does this mean? Where am I? What is that? It was... Gemma, it was beyond.
So many different battles right there.
It was beyond. When I came out of hospital, I moved in with my mum because I wasn't able to. I couldn't butter a piece of toast 3 years ago. Like,
do you know that 3 years? 3 years isn't a long time at all.
No.
As well as what you were going through, we had the pandemic. You had the businesses, people, everybody looking at you for guidance, and Jane wasn't putting Jane first, or hadn't been. Does Jane put Jane first now?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you get asked this all the time?
And everybody else makes sure Jane puts Jane first too.
Good.
I never want to be in that position ever again. That was scary.
What do you do different for you? How do you put yourself first?
I think it's the words that we use to each other. So I would, if you'd have met me 4 years ago, 5 years ago, as Jane Maudsley. It's interesting, I've now got a different name as well. Yeah. But so let's talk Jane Maudsley, Jane James. Jane Maudsley would have said yes to everything, that she would have described the business as her second baby, her second child. It's everything to me. Those words don't come into my psyche now. The Jane James and who I am today and what I've learned from that very traumatic recovery journey is that I come first before everything. Mm-hmm. So for that, I've got really strict boundaries. I have 2 phones. Mm-hmm. I don't touch an email after 5 o'clock on a Friday. I don't touch them all weekend. If my out of office is off, it's off. Yeah. I take regular days off. I book all my holidays in advance at the beginning of the year.
I can imagine that was a bit of a transition for you, though.
Huge.
Because you're saying, like, oh, yeah, do this now. Do this, and this. coming from an environment where that can still go on, I struggle with that myself now. I say struggle, but I don't know if it's something I actually want to do. I don't see it causing me a problem right now. Maybe one day, but for you, was that something that you slowly integrated yourself into, or was it there's no option, I have to literally take action right now and make these boundaries?
Yeah, I think after coming back to work, so obviously I was out of the business for a period of time, the business thrived, the network I have got is my Little Voices family is incredible. They pull together my head office team, everything, and that was phenomenal. But the realisation for me, it took me 4 months to even have a conversation on the phone with someone.
Yeah.
You know, buttering a piece of toast, going outside, simple things. When you've gone through that and had to rebuild, there's no way I'm going back to that.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel Jane for so long. Once I got Jane back, Jane to be me now, like I am with you and how I am within the world of Little Voices, franchising, children's activities, my family, I've got to put me first. So it's an easy boundary to make.
Yeah.
And nothing's going to happen if you don't answer that email or that phone call, or there's always a solution to a problem.
Yeah. You see, this is, give me goosebumps, because this is exactly why I want to do podcasts and getting your messages out, because looking at you outside in, just from the outside on social media, just from meeting you as brief as I have, you would never have known these struggles. And I just think you're remarkable.
Well, we all
it's
have
amazing.
them, don't we? We're just
definitely
people.
Do.
We're just people.
But a lot of people hide behind it, or some people aren't comfortable, which is absolutely fine. But I just think just by even talking about what you've talked about today, it gives people hope that there is change and that you can make better choices to, you know, to get to where you are, because look where you are now.
Yeah.
Winning awards.
Yeah, winning awards.
Winning
the BFA.
awards. Can we talk about this?
Yeah, let's talk about it, because
that was magic.
It was magical, because as I turned right as she won the award, you was up with your arms in the air, and I was like, I don't even really know Gemma, and she's clearly got so much love for the fact that this has happened for our network, and that is what it was just a magical moment.
Yeah.
It was a magical moment for all of us. It was incredible.
It's the support for everyone, and I hate to say this, but the female support for each other is quite unique in our world, isn't it? Because women don't always support women. And the table of women you were sat with, they weren't all from your business, were they? Not all from, some of them you could, I wouldn't ever say competitors. We're not competitors in that sense, are we? But the women sat on your table, in other sectors, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's when I was sat back, I was like, I want to be on that table, but I don't need to be. I can support you from over here. I just think
it's a very unique industry.
It is.
For children's activities, but also franchising. And I think it's changing more and more, because it's about collaboration over competition.
Yeah.
You know, we need to learn from the big boys, and the big boys are the banks and the insurance companies and huge corporates.
Yeah.
They all pat each other's backs in some way, like, and work together. Yeah. And this, you know, I don't do cold, I don't do frosty, I don't do all out for myself.
No.
Pay it forward.
Yeah.
I've got some amazing people on speed dial in the franchising industry that are way ahead of me. You know, been at it 30, 40 years, always been happy to share. And they said, and I was so grateful for that knowledge and that help at times when I needed it. And they said to me, I'm thinking of 3 people in particular in my head, if you do the same for someone else, that's payment enough for me.
Yeah.
And I've been committed to that. And I do, like, I speak to franchisors setting up, people coming into the industry, children's activities, who might think we're competitors, but no, it's about paying it forward.
Yeah, I love that. It's true though. When I talk about the industry, and I don't know if it's the same for you, some people who are completely out of this world, they think it is literally buzzwords, it's fluffy and it's amazing in this way. It really is, isn't it? I mean, like I go back to that night at the awards, I didn't know you that well. I think I came over and just ran to the table at one point. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then left. But just even from today, I feel like I knew you a lot better than I did 2 hours ago. But I still feel there's so much more to find out as well. My mind's buzzing. I'm so grateful that you've come on today.
Well, thank you for having me. When you said I'm going to do a podcast, I was like, I'm all over that. Gemma, will you have me?
Yeah, please come on. And then, I am going to end it now just because I feel like I could talk to you forever, which is an amazing feeling because this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. So Jane, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.